Welcome to Pop Culture Roulette for all your pop culture needs. We're America's podcast.
All right, all right.
All right. I guess everybody, it's been a couple weeks.
Whoa, what about the intros?
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
Maybe,
I
maybe that
this
was part of his intro.
Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
this
It's been a
um
couple of weeks. Let me reintroduce you to
it's,
the.
yeah, it's been a couple weeks. Apparently that's all it takes for me to, even though this is episode like 127, 128, somewhere in that neighborhood. I apparently I forget how to run this show. So
That's
every
okay.
every time. All right, I'm welcome. Welcome everybody. I'm
I'm
joined. I'm
welcome.
welcomed.
Man, I feel so welcomed to be here.
I would like you to also welcome Jeremy
Yo.
and Justin.
Like, it only took 30 seconds and it's gone off the rails.
Oh, well, it is apropos for the topic that we're going to have today. But we took a couple weeks off for various different reasons. Schedule just keeps getting in the way, and hopefully we'll get back on track and start doing regular again. But hey, it is what it is.
Eat your oat bran.
Sometimes,
Cross your little fingers.
sometimes life just gets in the way. I did get a little feedback from the last episode that we did. It's one of our faithful listeners.
I only want to hear it if it's positive.
It's not it's not negative.
It ended up being a net neutral.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
it was actually about you, Jeremy.
All right.
Ooh.
Our buddy Tim over at Around the Bases said he's never heard anybody sexually attracted to a Death Star before, but it made him laugh hysterically. And
I would count that as
happy to hear
positive.
Yeah, I'll take that as a positive.
they actually over on that podcast they gave us the first, like, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes of their last episode. They talked about the bracket that we did about, or the last 2 episodes that we did about pop culture vehicles, and but that was one of the things that I privately got messaged about, because they try to keep their podcast way cleaner than we do. So
Nice. I'm counting that as positive.
all right, it's positive then. All right, it's a win, but
Well, I truly mean that.
just doubling down. It's going to become the Tom Brady thing all over again. It started as a joke, and then eventually became reality.
When to let a good thing go.
All right, well, flubbing the intro is, like I said, apropos of the topic. So a couple weeks ago, I had planned on doing this topic, but it ended up not working out as well as I wanted. When the Florida Panthers almost blew the Stanley Cup Finals when they were up 3-0 in the finals over the Senators.
They played a team from Canada.
Yeah, was it Ottawa? The Senators?
I
I don't think it was the Canucks.
don't think it was the Senators.
It wasn't the Maple Leafs.
Keep going. I'll get back to you.
Okay. Anyway, they were up 3-0, and then they had to win 2-1 in the 7th game. So it was almost super embarrassing being up 3-0 and
over the Edmonton Oilers.
The only Canadian team we didn't mention. Oh no, the Winnipeg Jets. There, now we got them all.
When's the last time Canada won?
1973. I have no idea. Like 1990 something. Like, you would think for the country that basically invented hockey, but they haven't won ever since America figured it out. We haven't given it back. But anyway, I decided we were going to talk about some of the all-time epic chokes.
93.
99. So that's one of your all-time epic chokes right there. The Canadians haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1993.
Yeah.
Jeremy, where were you in 1993?
I was 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was crawling around on a carpet somewhere.
I was in high school.
I was 6.
did I have my learner's permit by then? I'll have to do the math on that. 78 to 93. No.
15.
Yeah. So well, I got my learner's permit and Canada won a Stanley Cup, and then I've had a car ever since, and they haven't won. All right.
Good
So,
job, Canada.
so as long as I've been able to drive, Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup. I'm not saying they're related, but
Conspiracy theory? I think so.
well, if anything, this podcast loves brackets and conspiracy theories. Well, let's talk about some conspiracy theories. Justin, I know that you're going to know about a lot of these. So some of your all-time epic chokes. We'll start with football, mainly because that's just how I wrote the list. Sometimes they're in order, sometimes they're just how I remembered them. The 1999-2000 that playoff, the Music City Miracle, where the Bills were up 16-15 with 16 seconds left. Basically just had to run the clock out, and was that the Frank Wycheck? That was
that was that kickoff.
Yeah, the Frank Wycheck, yeah.
Yeah, the lateral.
Yeah. All you needed to do was make one tackle and the game was over, and they lost. This one might hurt you a little bit, Justin. Although I can't remember, I don't think it might have actually made you happy because I can't remember exactly when this one. The 2009 NFC Championship game, Brett Favre.
What a clown.
I was like, 2009. Which
Was
one?
Was that the Vikings one or the Packers one? I should have wrote more down.
I think that's when he choked is that when he choked to the Giants, or is that the one with the Vikings missing that tackle on the Saints?
I mean, I wrote Favre, so I definitely know that Favre was there.
I think that was
when he threw an interception in overtime.
I think the Giants choke was 07.
Yeah, I think that's the one when he was with the Vikings, and they just couldn't make that tackle because they tried to light that guy up.
Yeah, so that was a pretty big choke because they should have won that game.
91. That was the Saints one.
Okay. 91, Scott Norwood, wide right in the Super Bowl. Like all you have to do is make kind of a gimme kick and you don't lose 4 straight Super Bowls. But yet, yeah, there we go. In 19
they'll get back next year.
I mean, I will say as much crap as the Bills get for losing 4 straight Super Bowls, it is really impressive that they went to 4 straight Super Bowls.
Is it more impressive to go to 4 straight or to lose 4 straight?
It's almost like you have to try to lose 4 straight. I mean, getting to 4 straight, really impossible since I don't think anyone other than the Bills has ever done it. Like just getting 2 in a row is hard enough. Like,
yeah,
because even in the Patriots, and I'm going to use air quotes on an audio podcast, dynasty, they never won 3 in a row.
Tear down those quotes.
All right, then this is one of the biggest chokes of all time. The Oilers, who don't exist anymore, in 1993 had a 35-3 halftime lead in an AFC wildcard game and lost 35-3 at half.
That's quite the choke job.
What
year was that?
93, which had to have been one of the last years that the Oilers existed.
Yeah, I don't remember. Well, I don't remember when they moved to Tennessee.
And then the Seahawks throwing an interception on the goal line. In the Super Bowl. And then this one, which I think maybe could be argued to be one of the biggest choke jobs of all time. The Falcons having a 28-3 lead deep into the third quarter and still somehow managed to lose the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's rough. I think that's one of the few Super Bowls that we didn't all watch together.
I think it was just me and you at your house, right?
I believe that's right.
Yeah, that was one of the few that we didn't go over to Tony's house.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I don't know. Maybe it was a last minute thing like they all are because no one really cared about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because the Patriots. And I know that there's been at least one Super Bowl since I moved into the house here that I watched it here at the house because that was when I had that second job for a little while. Because I remember like rushing home and barely making it to like opening kickoff. All right, let's go on to a sport that none of us care about, but there's been a couple
soccer.
That is on the list. In fact, all right, we'll go to soccer. We'll go down.
Oh, you said none we cared about.
Yeah, I mean, 1950, the World Cup in Brazil. All Brazil needs to do is tie, and they win the World Cup. Mind you, like I said, this is at home. All they have to do tie 0-0, 1-1. That's it. They lost 2-1.
How do you win a World Cup with tying? You didn't win. You tied.
Well, because the World Cup is based on, I think, points.
I don't understand soccer. I never
I
will.
I don't either. And the fact that you could win the World Cup by just tying is kind of atrocious. But at the same time, all you need to do is just tie, and you win the whole thing, and you go out and lose to Uruguay.
How many people got beheaded after that one?
I don't know that
Well,
was
Stats on that.
there were no
was the
stats written down on
It
that.
was the 1950s, so probably about half. Just the women and children.
All right.
All right.
So let's talk about another sport that we don't care about.
Was that it for soccer?
Yeah, that's the only one I had for soccer. I really don't care about soccer. When I wrote in all-time chokes, there was a few other ones, but I'm like, none of us care about soccer enough to write, like, really talk about it. That one was just such a big, like, oh, all you have to do is not lose. Like,
What
you
about-
don't even
what
have
about
to.
all the people who just flop? That's a pretty big choke
That's
artist.
that's pathetic.
That's flopping and choking are two different things. I mean, flopping is a big problem, and it has infected the NBA. Watch, okay, some of this is college, but some of it is
Were you going to go to NBA as a sport none of us care about?
no, but you
Okay.
brought up basketball.
I was gonna
we'll
say,
get to
I
we'll get
like
to the sport.
basketball.
Yeah, I know. 2008, University of Memphis, 4-point lead with 1:15 left, misses 4 or 5 free throws and loses in overtime.
Oh, that one hurts you.
Ouch.
It did hurt me. It hurt bad. Like, you're up. All you have to do is hit a fucking free throw. I remember being so mad because
Who
that was
missed
when
the free throws?
well, it was Derrick Rose missed some, and then I think at least one other player missed some. I think 2 or 3 guys missed free throws, but John Calipari didn't coach free throws. He didn't believe in them. Thought that whatever, you don't win on free throws, but clearly you lose on free throws.
I will not let you badmouth Calipari on this podcast.
Why?
Yeah, I love calamari. It's delicious.
His autograph is probably in my room. Thank you very much.
I mean, who was he coaching at the time when you had the autograph?
Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, well, I will badmouth Calipari all the fuck I want to.
It was this year I got it. So around Christmas, season would still be going. Yeah, so still Kentucky.
Like,
I
did
love
you
the
meet
Kalahari. It's a wonderful resort.
Did you meet Calipari, or did somebody just give you an autograph?
My sister met him
Oh,
and got it for me.
your sister who lives in Nashville met Calipari.
Yes.
He's not with Kentucky anymore. But
No, I will explain after.
okay, is that not something you want to explain right now, or
Well, I don't care.
Two-person?
Her boyfriend works at Vanderbilt,
okay?
and his boss is Calipari's daughter.
Wow.
Ah,
So they were at a Christmas party at his house.
oh, okay. Because where is he now that he's not at Kentucky?
Alabama? Southern
Okay.
Alabama?
I know he
One-
went somewhere
One of them?
not as big as Kentucky, but I know he went
Not
somewhere.
not even close.
But I mean, it's still a big school. It wasn't like he went from Kentucky to University of North Texas.
Arkansas.
Ah, well, Arkansas has at least one national title. So it's not like, they're not a basketball school at some point.
Yes, he's in Arkansas now.
Okay. So that's a pretty big choke job. 1993. Again, we're going back to Jeremy's youth. So hopefully through Sports Center and just history, he's been seeing the video. Chris Webber starts trying to call a timeout with 15 seconds left. The problem being Michigan was out of timeouts. Yeah, that's
wow.
technical. Yeah, yeah. So ended up costing Michigan the national title game.
That was the Fab Five too,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
that was the Fab Five. I would say it didn't really hurt any of them. They all pretty much went on to have pretty big careers.
But they were all still pretty early draft picks.
Yeah. 2016, the Golden State Warriors have a 3-1 lead over the Cavaliers in the NBA Finals, and somehow lose to
LeBron getting Cleveland a championship?
yes,
Might be a conspiracy in that one.
maybe a little bit. Plus, Golden State was friggin' stacked. Like, I don't know how you managed to lose a 3-1 lead in the finals there.
That's when they had KD too, right?
I think so. Okay, in this one, one of the biggest chokes of all time, 2018 UVA. Does anybody remember what UVA did in 2018 that would be one of the biggest chokes of all time?
Yes, Jeremy, go.
I don't even know what that means.
University of Virginia.
Okay, that's a
Did
good
some
start. Okay, we got that
All
clarified.
right, what did they do, Jeremy?
I bet what happened
Okay.
was hold on, give me a second. I just have to go into my way back machine here. I think someone probably stepped over a line or something.
That was the first time a number one seed, fill in the blanks.
Lost to a number 16.
There you go. All right. Yes.
Oh,
The first time a number one in the history of the NCAA tournament lost to a 16.
I bet
Which
someone stepped over a line at some point.
they probably. I mean,
Oh yeah, they crossed the line.
they because I think it's happened at least one other time since then, right?
Yeah, I think Duke did it.
Yeah. But this was the first time a number one did it, and it was like University of Maryland, like not University of Maryland Terrapins, like University of Maryland, like commuter college. Like it was a school that probably shouldn't even have a Division One basketball team, but managed to, yeah, like got invited to the tournament because they accidentally won their conference somehow.
University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Yeah, I knew it was BC. I just couldn't remember what the BC stood for.
It was 74 to 54.
Yeah, so it wasn't even like a lucky last second shot. It was just a flat out beating. Like it was just because I remember going into that year, I talked to, well, mainly probably you, Justin, but I know other people like I knew a couple of guys who were like, a 16 will never beat a one. It'll never happen. I'm like, it's gonna happen one of these days. It will. It's just mathematically it'll happen at some point. So, the number one star will break a leg and like, or half the team will get the flu. No, apparently what it was is UVA just was overlooking UMBC and, well, history happened.
And Rayleigh Dickinson Knights defeated the Boilermakers.
Oh yeah, Purdue. Purdue loves to choke in the
That,
NCAA bracket.
that was in 2013. Those are the only two losses by one seeds in the first round.
Oh, so UVA wasn't the first one? Then the list
In 2018.
okay.
And then the other one was Purdue in 2023.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 2013. I'm
So
sorry.
the number one seeds have an overall record of 154 and 2.
Yeah, so it's pretty safe to say when you're filling out a bracket, unless you're talking about this podcast, that the number 16 seed will almost always lose to the. Where in this podcast, the 16 seed has a real tendency to beat the number one seed.
Yeah, we can have some people go back, crunch some numbers, find out what it is.
Since we don't
Listeners, you have homework.
since we very rarely ever actually give seeding out. Good luck.
And our seating is completely made up.
All right. So do we want to talk about the sport we don't care about, baseball or hockey?
Let's go hockey.
Hockey. All right.
Jeremy, what were you going to say?
Never mind. Keep going.
2010, Boston Bruins lose a 3-0 lead to the Philadelphia Flyers in the conference semis. Kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. Should be ashamed of themselves.
1975, the dirty flopping shitbirds, Pittsburgh Penguins, lose a 3-0 lead to the Islanders in the quarterfinals.
What do you have against the Penguins?
Fuck the Penguins. That's what I have against the Penguins.
All the Penguins are just
Just the ones from Pittsburgh.
every Pittsburgh team?
No, just the Pittsburgh, just the hockey
Yeah,
team.
but every year Pittsburgh hockey team? Like, yeah, there's no players on there that you were like, I don't mind that guy.
If they are wearing a Penguins jersey, fuck that guy.
Wow.
Very, very similar to how I feel about the Texas Rangers.
Even Yager?
When he was wearing a jersey that wasn't a Pittsburgh jersey, he was great.
Oh, I guess
When
that's
he-
like us with the Bears
Yes, when
and the Cubs.
because I feel like I remember Yager putting on a Capitals jersey. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And then one of the biggest choke jobs. I didn't mean to write it this way, but it sure seems to have worked out this way. 1942, the Detroit Red Wings lose a 3-0 lead to the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup Finals. So hockey, apparently the 3-0 lead, not safe like it is in other sports.
Yeah,
All right. Let's go to golf. Golf, the sport that no one cares about.
I like golf.
No, you don't.
Of the miniature variety, yes, I
Well, yeah,
do.
as I say, I enjoy playing miniature golf, but I would just as soon watch nothing than watch golf on TV.
I was watching some golf today on TV, as a matter of
Wow.
Right. So, 1996, Greg Norman had a 6-shot lead going into the final round. I believe this is of the Masters. Ended up losing by 5.
yeah.
Phil Mickelson in '06 had a 1-shot lead on the last. Why in the world did I spell last like that? Man, I choked horribly on spelling last. I threw an extra S in there.
Last.
Had a 1-shot lead going into the last hole of the U.S. Open, and he shot a 6 to lose.
I
It doesn't say. I didn't write down how. And then in 1999, somebody named Juan Vandevels, and I probably butchered that name, had a 3-stroke lead on the final hole of the U.S. Open, and also lost.
no lead is safe.
All right. This one, baseball. Baseball, where I was last week watching my Angels lose to the Cubs, because apparently all I'm allowed to do is go to Cubs games now. I was in Atlanta. I saw the Cubs lose to the Braves.
Excellent.
I went to Cincinnati. I saw the Cubs lose to the Reds.
Excellent.
I go to Chicago and watch the Angels lose to the Cubs.
Damn it. We don't want the Cubs to win.
3 straight professional baseball games.
You saw the sign, Craig Counsell's an ass.
Oh, yeah. That was the one that
Wait.
went up at the park, right?
Yeah.
Where was that?
Craig Counsell Park in wherever he's from.
Oh, sweet.
Whitefish Bay or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Someone wrote on his sign, ass.
I guess
Like
I do
the day-
remember that.
The day he signed with the Cubs. Let's be fair. The Brewers are in first place right now, and the Cubs are in dead last.
Those
So,
those Cardinals are coming.
well, you can never count out the Cardinals. You just can't. And that's why the Cardinals are one of the most winningest franchises in Major League Baseball history. They
I thought
just
you were going to say most hated.
Well, here in Milwaukee, yes, because you guys, but those of us who didn't grow up in Milwaukee and maybe grew up near St. Louis, but not in St. Louis, potentially have a soft spot for them, but don't
Gross.
actively root for them.
Gross.
Anyway, 1995, the Angels have an 11-game lead over the Mariners on August 9th. 11 games on August 9th. So pretty much about 3/4 of the way through the season, like 11-game lead, you should be sailing to a playoff spot at that point. Finish the season 18-31, have to go into a 1-game playoff with the Mariners and lose.
That's rough to win 18 of your last 31.
Yeah, that was a rough year. That was bad. 1986, the Red Sox in the World Series, a half inning away from winning, lose.
What was the score?
I did not write.
That would have been crucial information.
Well, I mean, it wasn't like they were a half inning up. They were winning at the point.
Yeah,
All they
but it
had
was
to-
like if they're up 1-0 in baseball, it's different than if they were up by 5.
Well, I mean, you're still a half. I mean, it's like the Rangers getting to the World Series 2 years in a row and being 1 strike away from winning both times and losing, which was
Wow.
awesome, by the way, because fuck the Texas Rangers.
Or Texas.
This will be one of your favorites. 03 Cubs up 3-2 in Game 6 and up 3-0 in the 8th inning. Managed to lose that game
Good.
and then lose the next one.
Good.
And then they blame Steve Bartman for it, even though you're up 3-0 in the 8th inning.
Yeah, that guy, man.
Was
Yeah,
that
shit
Moses?
on.
Was that Moses Alou in the outfield?
Yeah, that was
going for
Moises
ball?
Alou who tried to blame. But that was a foul ball, so it wouldn't have done anything anyway. Even if he would have caught it, like
It would
the
have been
next-
out.
Yeah, it would have been an out, but like it was in the stands. I watched that documentary, like what was that called? Like Hell in Beantown or something. No, Beantown
That's Boston.
is Boston. What is I can't
Uh,
remember what the documentary was.
Wife
but
is
I-
a Cubs fan.
But it was all about how like, and they showed the angles, and they're like, even if Moises Alou, if Bartman hadn't put his hand up to catch the ball, like they're not like convinced that Alou would have been able to catch it anyway. So
I'm
like
trying to I'm trying to think of documentary names for that now. Just so you know.
it's a 30. It was a 30 for 30. It was a really interesting one.
The whiners of Wrigley.
It did make me feel really bad, even more for Bartman than it did beforehand, because like the way Chicago treated him was just a travesty. Because I mean, how about not the Alex Rodriguez who cheated and used steroids, the other Alex Rodriguez who was a shortstop for the Cubs, uh, having a multi-run error from shortstop in like the next play. Like, let's blame that guy for the reason that you were up 3-0 and lost that game. Then you still could have won game 7.
Yeah.
04, so the next year, the Yankees had a 3-0 lead over the Red Sox in the ALCS. And then the Red Sox went on to win their first World Series in like 80 years or whatever it was.
Stinking Red Sox.
But that was one of those, like, we were actively rooting for the Red Sox because we didn't know how much we hated the Red Sox at that point.
Were we? Because I wasn't.
Oh, okay. I wasn't rooting for the Yankees, I'll tell you that much. But I mean, it was kind of like one of those, like, oh man, they haven't won it in like 80 years. Like, oh. And then they would go on to, just prove themselves to be unmitigated douchebags.
Next week, should I show up wearing a Yankees jersey?
Don't, well, because the Yankees are unmitigated douchebags as well. It was like the douchebag Olympics in 04. It was like, I was about to make a political joke there, but we're going to move on. 07, the Mets had a 7-game lead on September 12th. So basically like 2 to 3 weeks left in the season at that point. Lose 12 of the last 17 games to not make the playoffs.
Classic Mets.
So,
the meltdown Mets are at it again.
And then this is my favorite choke job of all time. In 2002, the Giants were up 3-2. This time I did write down the score. They were up 5-0 in the 7th inning. And then they managed to lose that game and game 7 to, anyone want to take a guess? 2002 World Series?
All right, Jeremy. The Detroit Pistons.
Not even close. That would be the Anaheim Angels.
Thought it was the World Ball Stars.
Yeah.
So in 2002,
the Angels bought a World Series.
They did not buy a World Series. They've tried to buy one every year since, and it hasn't worked. But they earned that one. They drafted almost every player they had on that team.
Yeah, especially if they had to battle back in the 7th.
I mean, because they had drafted Garrett Anderson and Tim Salmon and Darren Erstad. I think there was a couple pitchers here or there that we had picked up free agent and made a couple trades, but it wasn't like anything like the Yankees when they're just like, we're going to throw all the money in the world at Alex Rodriguez and this guy and this guy and this guy.
And that guy.
Like, we didn't draft a single player on this roster. Like, every one of them is a trade or a free agent that we signed,
Yeah, baseball drafts are weird. It's hard for me to keep track of all the players because of all the drafts.
Because nobody cares about the draft in baseball. It does. The draft for baseball is happening today. I keep getting emails about it, and they're like, "Oh, MLB drafted," and I'm like, "I don't care." You want to know why? 2 reasons. One, I don't know how many drafts the baseball has anymore because they keep changing it. They've got the international draft, the regular draft, the supplemental draft. But I'm not going to see 95% of the players who got drafted today in the major leagues for 5 years. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 who make it next year. Like last year, Nolan Schanuel got drafted, and then the next year he was already playing in the majors. And was it the next year or was it the same year? But very rarely does a guy get drafted the same year or within a year making it to the majors. So you're going to forget you drafted him by the time he shows up. It's not like football where like that guy's making an impact or potentially making an impact. The draft is in April for the NFL?
Yeah.
And then he's making an impact in September,
The Brewers drafted a kid, Braylon Payne, an outfielder who is 17 years old, still in high school.
Right.
Strong name.
So he won't make it for the next 5 years, maybe we'll see him in the majors.
If that early. And who knows if we'll ever actually see him. Because
high school. Because
there's There's rookie league, there's single A, high A, low A, double A, triple A. There's so many, and then there's all the independent leagues that you end up in.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
this kid might go to school instead of going to the majors.
right. So then he might get drafted again. Like,
Yeah, how's that work if they get drafted out of high school and then they go to college? Shouldn't their rights be to that team?
I don't. I think there's a certain time frame that you have. Like once he's been drafted by the team, like he's got so long to sign the offer sheet before he just goes back into the pool.
Get drafted by a team, like, I don't want to go there. I'm just gonna go to school for 2 years and get redrafted.
Yeah, I mean that's a very real possibility. I mean, I
I
don't
mean,
I don't think it's a good look for you.
I could see if you were one of, I don't know how many rounds of the baseball draft, a lot, isn't it?
I don't honestly know.
If you're one of the late round picks, I could see doing that and trying to like up your draft stock, but not if you're one of the top in the first round pick. The draft order for rounds 2 through 20. So they draft 20 rounds. Okay, let's say you're the 18th round pick out of high school. Yeah, go to college, see if you can spend a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be, improve your draft stock. What do you got to lose at that point?
Right. I
What
mean, it's
I,
just a matter.
I was gonna say, what are some notable players in Major League that were drafted in the 20th round?
And that's the other thing is that, for every one Mike Trout who gets drafted in the first round, like it's not like football where like when Tom Brady got drafted in the seventh, like that's like, wow, I can't believe he got drafted in the seventh round and then went on to do what he did. Like Mike Piazza was the last draft pick in the year he got drafted, and now he's in the Hall of
Oh,
Fame, you know.
I just looked up some notable late round picks. Jacob deGrom in the ninth, Trevor Hoffman in the 11th, Nolan Ryan in the 12th, Pujols in the 13th, Jim Thome in the 13th,
Yeah.
Hader in the 19th, JD Martinez in 20, John Smoltz 22, Mark Burley 38th round, Mike Piazza 62nd round.
62nd round. See, this is why nobody cares about the Major League Baseball draft. Apparently, there used to be 62 rounds in a draft.
Mike Piazza was one of just 7 players chosen during the 62nd round.
And he was drafted as a favor.
Rules at the time allowed teams to continue drafting until they decided to stop.
Yeah.
Let's just keep drafting. Keep drafting.
Yeah, Tommy
Dodgers took him
Lasorda.
as a personal favor to Tommy Lasorda, who happened to be Piazza's godfather.
Yeah.
Nepotism in 1988.
Yeah, I will say though, for the Dodgers, it kind of worked out in the long run.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Mets, but
I think of what's that? Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. Is that the one when he says now batting Mike Piazza when he's playing in that echo chamber? Do you remember that? Have you seen that movie?
I've seen that movie.
I've never actually seen that movie.
It's so good it's bad. But he's waiting to talk to someone and they got that echo, so he's
Wait.
now batting.
It's so good it's bad, or it's so bad
It's so bad
good?
it's good.
Okay, all right, yeah, I'm gonna say.
This podcast is so good it's bad. That movie's so bad it's good.
Well, now that you bring up movies, let's talk about some epic movie chokes.
That was a segue.
Yeah,
Not just for riding on anymore.
It was kind of hard to exactly figure out what constituted a movie choke. So I have the biggest box office bombs of all time. I feel like though, like number one, Mars Needs Moms. Mainly part of it
animated one.
Yeah, that was the Robert Zemeckis animated one, but that one I think we knew was gonna bomb because that was when Zemeckis started doing all those weird like motion capture animated movies like Polar Express. And then he was like, we're going to do Mars Needs Mom. And everybody's like, we don't want that.
None of us want this movie.
Yeah. So that one, I don't really count that as a bomb because I think everybody but Zemeckis knew it was going to fail. Mm-hmm. But it's one of the biggest box office blunders of all time. But I don't understand the math because one of the other lists had John Carter as the all-time biggest, the loser of all time. But its budget was $263 million. It earned $281 million at the box office.
So net positive.
But somehow they're claiming it lost $205 million.
Unless they lost a lot for marketing and
So you
All
made
that kind of stuff.
you made 20 million in the box office, but somehow managed to lose 205 million overall. This is where I don't necessarily understand movie math a lot. Um,
That's fair.
and having watched John Carter, like it's not a great movie, but it's not bad. Like it's just its ultimate sin is that it's kind of forgettable. Um,
All right.
so then you've got like a movie like here. So this is slacker.com. No, stacker.com, not slacker.com. Those are two different websites. Like the biggest box office of all time. So it says that Town and Country, which was a movie that had Diane Keaton, Gary Shandling, Goldie Hawn, and Warren Beatty, cost about 105 million to make, only made 10 in the theaters.
Oof.
So pretty big cast. And only made 10 million in the theater. So that I feel like that one would be a choke because you got a big name cast. And first off, how are you making a movie where you don't do anything? It's just them sitting around talking. How does that cost 105 million?
Right.
Now this one has been the subject of many jokes. The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
I've never actually seen that movie.
Neither have I. Cost about 100 million to make. Somehow only made 7.1 million in the theaters.
What? And that was what, early 2000s? I think that movie came out.
2002. So Eddie Murphy was definitely,
He was still relevant.
still very relevant.
Tickets were probably what, $12?
I think they were even cheaper then.
Roughly 8 to 12.
Yeah, because I mean, in 2002, that would have been when I was going to the movies all the time.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, I've never seen that one though.
Yeah, I've been told it's not that bad, but I mean, Robot Chicken has all kinds of jokes about it. So
Well played, Robot Chicken.
now this one is number 4 on the all-time box office bomb list, but again, it's one of those like, is it a choke? Because I think its epic fail here is the fact that you took a movie about the hollow moon theory and made a really big budget movie called Moonfall, where somehow the moon was collapsing and going to fall into the planet. It came out a couple years ago, 2022.
I think I've seen that one.
It's awful. It's terrible. I think it was Josh Gad, Halle Berry. I don't even remember who was all in it. It was who wasn't. Now I got to look
Sounds
it up.
awful.
It was basically because Josh Gad was like a conspiracy theorist and like he was like like they had to recruit him. I don't know. It was awful. It was not.
Huh.
Okay, it was who was in this? Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, Charlie Plummer, Kelly Yu, Michael Pena. Maybe Josh Gad wasn't in the movie. Maybe I was thinking of somebody. Donald Sutherland, or Josh Gad managed to get his name taken off the list. One of the two. I don't.
Just remove me from the list.
Yeah.
Forget I was there.
It was one of those when it showed up on streaming. We watched it one day because it was free, and we were both, like, Jess and I were both like, "Wow, that was awful." No wonder it failed at the movie theater. Let's see, we'll skip that one. Go to movies that actually Cutthroat Island, which is actually a movie that I enjoy, but it was Matthew Modine, Gina Davis. It was a pirate movie in '95. I don't know why people hate it so much. It's one of the cost 92 million to make, only made 18.5 in the movie theater.
Nope, never seen that one either. I haven't even heard of that one.
The Last Duel, so relatively recent, 2021, 100 million to make, only made 30 in the box office. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck acted, Ridley Scott directed. I think he wrote it too.
Oh,
So
See, you got some big name players in that.
that's why it's one of the all-time chokes. You got a couple of big name players involved, and it failed. It bombed miserably.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that one.
Monkey Bone.
Is that the Chris Kattan one?
Yep. 75 million to make that movie, made 5.4 million in the movie theater.
I rented that one on VHS.
So did I.
Brandon Fraser, Chris Kattan?
Yeah, Brendan Fraser, Chris Kattan, Rose McGowan. Like
That was when they were pretty big still.
yeah, that was definitely at the height of all of their powers. It was really weird. I remember that being
A bizarre movie.
yeah. I
Yes.
don't remember hating it, but I remember just being like, this movie is weird. But yeah, as you go through the list, sometimes you get to like like Onward is on the list here for biggest box office bombs. Cost 200 million to make, but it made 133 in the theaters, which is pretty impressive because it came out during COVID.
I was gonna say that was during the whole pandemic too.
So it still made a lot of money in the theaters for not having really been in the theaters. But it was one I didn't make it to before COVID hit, and it came to Disney Plus real fast.
Yeah.
So like it might technically be a bomb, but like it was actually still a really good movie. Like Chris Pratt, Holland, not Tom Holland, not Chris
Tom
Holland.
Holland.
Just I want to name everybody in the Marvel universe Chris. It's just easier that.
I don't know if you guys play Rocket League, but I made a van to look like the van from Onward.
It's been a while, but it's fun.
Yeah, me too. I get angry a lot. I like that it's cross-platform too.
Yeah, more games do that.
Yes, so I could actually play you in Rocket League if I wanted to.
Yes, you can.
I mean, I don't play Rocket League very often, so you'd probably destroy me.
We'd all be on a team.
Oh wow, well then, easy.
3v3 versus some other people that are going to destroy us.
So yeah, I mean, then you go to Wikipedia and you look up the biggest box office bombs of all time. This is when it gets really weird because you're like, oh, it made, it tries to adjust the losses for inflation. It's like, no, like you have to go with the losses at the time. If it cost 100 million to make at the time and it lost 60, then that's you can't just be you can't.
Like a 40 million loss. You would figure if they would adjust all those numbers for inflation, it would still end up being 40 million.
So this is where I have a hard time believing the numbers when it comes to like biggest box office bombs. Transformers: The Last Knight, which I will say is probably a choke. I know that you guys didn't really watch the Transformers movies, but overall they're not terrible. This one was. You had Wahlberg and you had a bunch of stuff and you had a successful franchise going. It cost somewhere between 217 to 260 to make. See, this is where I get confused. It made 605 million in the theaters. Okay. So that's a really big amount compared. Let's say it did cost 260 to make, like the top end.
All right.
That's still a lot of money.
345 million.
And they're claiming that it lost 124 million.
Yeah, unless it's just marketing and stuff they just blew their budget on.
Yeah, I don't know how because that, when you look at throughout the list here, it's pretty, like the top box office bombs are all like that. They're all like, oh, cost 200 made 271, lost 155. Wait, what? Like that's the Flash.
You still made money.
Now, let's talk about that. Like let's talk about the Flash being one of the biggest all-time chokes.
I'd say unless they're losing money because they keep postponing it. But because how many times did they postpone the Flash?
A lot, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that would cost you too much money in the long run. But I mean, the Flash was an all-time choke because you have the Flash, like a character that people love. You're throwing in Batman, you're throwing in Supergirl, you're throwing in a bunch of other DC characters. Like you've got like a good roster of characters. And then you make you throw in Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck. And then you make one of the worst movies it's ever seen.
And George Clooney.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, for the 5 seconds that he was in the movie, in the after credits, I don't know if he counts, but
was he in the movie?
I mean, technically, yes.
Boom. Technically, he counts.
So what would you consider an all-time choke for a movie? Like, I mean, for me, like The Flash is one. Some of the last couple Terminators, like, because you've built on a good franchise and then you just kind of fall over yourself, like
Star Wars.
Oh, like the newest one?
Yeah.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that way. Which movie are we talking about in particular?
I would say like
Rise of the Skywalker. I don't. This is my feeling on the Star Wars thing.
7.
Sure.
So
it's basically 4.
I don't want to piss off everybody.
Well, you won't, because a lot of people disagree with me and I agree with you. But
Do
this
they?
is
Consensus on 7 too.
Well, this is all right. So this is what I know and what people say. Okay, I think this has always been the way with Star Wars. So the first movie came out in 1977. Everybody loved it. Second one came
I
out.
believe that was the fourth one.
Okay, listen, smarty pants.
Got real close to the mic. Look here, you little shit.
So everybody loved it. Return of the Jedi comes back. Was it Return of the Jedi or Empire? I can never remember. You'd think being a Star Wars fan. Anyway, the second one comes out. Everybody loves it. The third one comes out, and everybody complains about all the stupid teddy bears. How dare you put all these Ewoks? But by the time Phantom Menace comes out in '99, everybody now loves the Ewoks, and everybody talks about how great it is. That trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies of all time when it comes to movies. Phantom Menace comes out, and everybody hates it. Jar Jar is the worst thing that's ever existed. I will hold to the fact that Jar Jar is the worst thing that's ever existed in Star Wars. I don't care about any of the new Disney trilogy, but Jar Jar is awful. I don't know how many of you remember, but I remember they made a documentary called The People versus George Lucas.
I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. People were up in arms. The whole conceit of Space, that Simon Pegg TV show, was like how much Simon Pegg's character hated Phantom Menace and it ruined his childhood. And everybody, that was okay. Now, not Rise of the Skywalker, Force Awakens comes out.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh my God, the Phantom Menace was amazing. All of that trilogy is just, that trilogy is awesome. Jar Jar still sucks, but that trilogy is amazing.
The trilogy is amazing, minus Jar Jar.
Force Awakens comes out, everybody hates it. Okay. Last Jedi comes out, everybody hates it. Now The Force Awakens is pretty good. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Rise of the Skywalker comes out, and people are now talking about Last Jedi being this masterpiece, and it's right up there with Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. And you should have let Rian Johnson finish out the series instead of only letting him have the one movie and giving it back to J.J. Abrams and blah blah blah. And now it's like, so every time a new movie comes out, the goalpost for Star Wars fans moves.
That's fair. I mean, that's I would say, yeah, that's accurate.
So everybody loves to shit on Rise of the Skywalker now, but the next trilogy that comes out,
yeah,
people are going to love it. That's just how. I mean, if you look at the history of Star Wars,
well, that's if it keeps getting more and more bad. I mean, there might be a reason for why it keeps getting pushed.
I mean, see, this is the thing. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm a Star Wars fanboy, so it's probably not the best person to talk to about it. But like, I liked that trilogy. I thought it was pretty good. Last Jedi had some problems. Wasn't the best movie. That's the one I went and saw with you and Tony, right, Justin?
Possibly. Is that
okay? That's the one that had the really ridiculously long casino scene that went nowhere.
Is that 4?
That was the one that was the middle one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the middle one, The Last Jedi.
Yeah, okay. That was both.
But so like people love to talk about Andor, that series that came out a couple years ago on Disney Plus. They're like, "Oh my God, it's one of the greatest things that Star Wars ever done." I thought it was incredibly boring, and it was really, really hard to finish. I thought Ahsoka was fucking amazing. But people love to shit on it because heaven forbid you have a female character as the lead.
I mean, you put
bullshit.
You put Rosario Dawson in it. Probably pretty good.
Yeah, I have not given The Acolyte any. I watched one episode and I haven't had a chance to go back to it. Not because I didn't like the first episode. So I can't speak to The Acolyte because I genuinely haven't given it a shot because I've been so busy on other stuff. That I just, I'm
gonna say I never not liked The Force Awakens. I was just saying that earlier with Justin for a bit, but when we saw it together, I thought it was great. I thought I thought it was back. I was like, the franchise is revitalized. I never really had an issue with that.
No, I thought Force Awakens was great. I mean, I do see that there's certain parts of it that are kind of an homage to 4. I'm not going to agree with Justin.
Most parts of it are.
That it's just a straight remake of 4. There's enough difference in there that, there's definitely homages and there's beats, but, now I for the most part, I enjoyed Last Jedi. I thought for Last Jedi, Skywalker, I'm sorry, there's so many words.
Take a breath.
I thought Rise of the Skywalker was pretty good. I thought Solo was pretty good. I would have loved to see more of that series. I'd like to see. I would have loved to seen Donald Glover get a second crack at being Lando. I will say that, I mean, everybody. What was the one that everybody absolutely loves? Rogue One. I mean, I,
Yeah.
I I will agree that Rogue One was really good.
I think Rogue One is the one I fell asleep at during in the theaters.
Oh,
I think it was Rogue One. It was one of those standalone ones.
okay.
I think it was Rogue One.
I just feel like there's just so much Star Wars right now. Are we
Right.
not getting fatigued yet?
I think that's part of the problem too, is that, and I think that is, I will agree with Justin on the superhero fatigue is kind of setting in a little bit. I'm still hyped for Deadpool Wolverine that's coming out in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And now that I saw the trailer for Captain America: Brave New World, like I'm really hyped because I got to see Red Hulk, even for just a second, but still, like I'm excited. But I'm well, a fanboy, and I love that stuff. But I do get that, like, Marvel needs to, and I think they've even acknowledged that they need to bring it down, and they need to, like, I think that might be where some of the Star Wars hate is coming from, is that it went from every 20 years you got a new trilogy to every 6 months you're getting a new show.
Yeah.
We went from not getting a new movie, it took, from 1984, 85 to 99 to get a new movie of Star Wars. And then from like 2001, 2002, it would have been actually like 2005 when
2004 or 5.
2004, 2005 when that movie came out, The Force Awakens, and then all of a sudden, like, it was like every year, all of a sudden we got another movie, and it was just like, oh, okay, let's, maybe space it out. Maybe then, people won't hate it as much.
Same with all the shows grouped in there too, that Disney Plus is just going like crazy. Because how many shows?
I don't even
know. Like Mandalorian and all, and 4 or 5 other shows, all within the span of 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah. If you told me, like, when I was a child that there's so many Star Wars shows that you won't even get to see them all because you'll just not be able to.
But yeah, if you had told me in the 80s when I was just rewatching the Star Wars movies or just playing with the action figures, that there'd be a day that would come when a new Star Wars thing would come out and you wouldn't watch it right away because you were busy.
Yeah.
You're just like, I'm gonna watch.
One day in your adulthood, you're gonna be burnt out of Star Wars.
You're gonna be like, oh, a new Star Wars series started. I'm gonna watch The Boys instead. I'm gonna watch Fallout and finish that. Which, by the way, I did, and I have questions. We'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, Star Wars is one of your chokes. Any other movies that you would consider to be kind of a choke, like
Curse of the Crystal Skull?
Sure.
Okay, all right, perfect. I think it's Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Whatever. That terrible Indiana Jones one.
Yeah.
Watching it was a curse.
How about the newest one too?
Dial of Destiny.
Keep shitting on Disney.
Dial of Destiny was way better than Kingdom of Crystal Skull, but not near as good as the other 3 Indiana Jones.
Well, all right.
So
I haven't actually seen it myself, but it
kind
looks like
kind of a half joke. Like, yeah.
Okay.
I'd say most of the video game inspired movies.
Yeah.
As you could learn from one of our previous brackets.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have been an entire bracket full of movies that choked. Here's a great franchise that people love. We're going to put in some pretty big actors, and we're going to give you this.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't necessarily include Uwe Boll in that because he didn't exactly take franchises that people love, but,
just him as a director.
All right, I got a couple TV shows here. I didn't necessarily agree with all of them, but I was right. I wrote down what people wrote as some of the biggest chokes or some of the worst finales. Scrubs season 9.
Yeah, season doesn't exist.
The Chuck finale.
Mm.
The Seinfeld finale, which I wholeheartedly disagree with, but a lot of people hate it. The Game of Thrones final season. The Lost finale, which again I also disagree with.
I've never seen that show.
I like it, but I know a lot of people will argue that the ending killed it. The Sopranos finale. Never watched an episode, so I don't know. The final season of Dexter.
Like the final season, or like the new stuff that they.
No, the new stuff wasn't on the list. The final
Mm.
season where he
Oh,
like
the
Lumberjack.
yeah, fakes his death and becomes a lumberjack, which I can't say too loud because Jess started watching Dexter, so she might be up there watching it right now, actually.
yeah, someone else started it too.
So, and then How I Met Your Mother, the final season.
Okay,
So,
I could agree with some of those.
Sure.
and then one of them that I didn't really understand, but so the final season of Roseanne. So apparently they win the lottery and it completely changes the tone of the first 8 seasons. And then in the season finale, you find out that Dan, John Goodman's character, actually died in the season finale of season 8, and all of season 9 was just in Roseanne's imagination.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right then.
All right. So did you guys got any TV chokes?
Yeah, not really. Most of them are on the list that you said for me.
Okay.
Maybe the last season, the kinda half choke.
Okay.
I mean, at least they got him back
Yeah.
for the finale, but it was still just kind of just ended with like a whimper.
All right. Well, okay. So there you go. There's some all-time chokes that would have been inspired by the Florida Panthers, but the Florida Panthers ended up pulling it out and winning the Stanley Cup. So I was just inspired by the idea of what could have been. All right. What have we been watching? I want to go first because I have questions for you, Jeremy.
All right.
Yesterday I was left alone for a little while, so I watched almost all of Fallout. I finished it because I watched the first with an episode with Jess, and she was like, I'm not interested. So I watched the rest of the season yesterday.
Uh-huh.
When is it supposed to take place? Because the timeline was all over the place, and I couldn't figure it out. But it was like,
set hundreds of years in the future.
Okay. Because it was definitely like the cars were all like from like the 50s, but like the technology was from like modern and future. And
yeah, it's got like that aesthetic. They got like the 50s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I was confused on in that it seemed like, so the nuclear attack happened and they were all, they moved everybody into the bunkers, or they had already moved a bunch of people into the bunkers before the nuclear attack happened. Mm-hmm. Were they actually in there for 200 years, or were they being lied to about how long they had actually been down there?
That I don't know, because like the show, they might do something different. They might decide to do something different, but I think it's on the same. It might be on the same timeline. And like, if that's the case, they actually are in there for that long.
Okay, because there were some things that were happening towards the end where I'm like, she started finding stuff out, and I'm like, wait, so they were being lied to. They weren't actually in there for 200 years, but I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. I did really enjoy it though. I was very intrigued, even though I've never played any of the games. I was, I really got invested.
Yeah, it's a great. I enjoy.
So it was an enjoyable show. That's what I watched recently. So yeah, all right, that's what I watched. Fallout. I'm gonna finally agree with where you put it a couple weeks ago as a good show, and I will countersign and say, yes, I enjoyed it.
I never watched it yet. Well, I watched America the Motion Picture, which I told you guys to watch for our 4th of July episode that never existed.
Oh, yeah. Well, good. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either.
Okay. And then I watched Unfrosted on Netflix.
Oh, nice.
I keep forgetting to watch Unfrosted.
Worth it.
Okay.
And
it's pretty stupid.
Yeah. You seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't listen to the podcast that he did with.
Yeah, go listen to my Wrap It Up episode.
Yeah,
I talk all about it.
No, I have none of that. And then the other thing we've just been watching is we're going through the Lord of the Rings series, so we just are watching the Hobbit movies.
Are you watching them in the order in which they were released, or the order in which they're supposed, like chronologically?
Chronologically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're working through the Hobbit stuff now to get there. This is the first time I've actually watched the Hobbit movies. Yeah.
They're okay. They're not as good as the Lord of the Rings movies, but they're not bad.
As I said, this isn't bad. I miss Gimli.
All right, Jeremy, have you been watching anything?
I watched the entire series of Hotel Hell on YouTube. They're all on there. and it's really annoying because there's a Gordon Ramsay channel, there's a Hotel Hell channel, and then there's a Kitchen Nightmares channel, and they all repurpose everything, and it's all the same episodes and over, so you never know if you're like getting repeats. It's really annoying. But eventually I did find them all and I watched them all. It's awesome to listen to him uncensored because Gordon Ramsay is just he's cutting. I love his cursing. It's very I wish he could come over and motivate me. But I love, I mean, those are great shows. Let's see, what else? Inmate to Roommate, watch some more of that.
Yeah, that's the one I want to check out. Inmate to Roommate.
And that's probably it. Yeah, I watch a lot of body cam YouTube. I watch people get like safety checks on their boats, and then they end up getting operating, or I watch people run away from.
Almost never work. It almost never works.
No, yeah, I don't know why they think they could pull it off.
People seem to think stupid things, and cops have tasers.
Yeah. I wish I watched like some movies or something. I don't think I did.
I rewatched Terminator 2 today.
Nice.
That's it. We have a pop culture podcast, but we're all watching Hotel Hell, Lord of the Rings from 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
Unfrosted is 2024.
Okay, so what I did? Okay, I watched Fallout, and you watched Unfrosted, but everything else we've been watching is from like, well, Terminator 2 is like 91, 92.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's so good though. All right, well then, I guess if you decided you were going to do an episode about something, and then that didn't happen, and you still went ahead and did the episode anyway, just remember, stupid never walks alone.
Comic books have been around for almost a century, and in the last 2 decades, we've finally gotten to see many of these characters brought to life in movies and on TV. On the Moving Panels podcast, we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. Join me and my guests as we discuss both the good and the bad from Marvel, DC, and even some of the lesser-known comic book companies. Learn what is and isn't from the comics, as well as our nerdy review of the movie or show. New episodes drop every Monday, and you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. So join us for Moving Panels, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and listen to an 80s Flick Flashback podcast once in a while, you could miss it. Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes, VCRs, and the video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? My name is Tim Williams. I'm the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. On each episode, I'm joined by guest co-host to discuss one of the many movies released in the 1980s. We share our first-time watch memories, our favorite scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew along the way. New episodes are released every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an excellent episode of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. The ad is over. Go home. Go.